All right, we'll get started. Any questions? First day working on Miami.
We saw Justin Simmons on the side field. You have
Yep.
a little concern there.
He didn't practice today, and he's working rehabbing. We'll list it when we send out the injury report.
Coach, when you're talking about the reducing verbiage and all that, is some of it maybe that just takes time and you were operating at a high level and you drew all those years to just get everybody up to speed versus a couple guys every year?
Yeah. Look, I think this preseason was smooth, and then I think week one was smooth. We probably had too much with some of these plays, and looking back on it, that's something we can correct on our end, and be quicker. There's that happy balance of getting it in fast, but then also getting it called to the line, and I'm sure we were a little bit heavy relative to the length of some of the plays.
You talked about having to go to the wristband. You're not afraid to use that. If so, but it looked like Russ was wearing one. Does that just
we always have. Look, we always have a wristband for certain. There are certain plays that are going to be longer, and I'll just say, Russ, let's run 2, or let's flip 2. We're on the left hash or right hash, and so hindsight last week, there's probably about 4 or 5 plays that would have been easier if they were wristbanded, but we can still reduce the verbiage.
What did you do today regarding reducing the verbiage?
Well, we didn't do it today. We did it last night when we put the plan together.
Okay.
Makes sense? So if a play X curl, Z post, Y shake, and let's call it oxy. Coming up with code names to help do that.
Johnny,
But that was last night.
You said last week you could put on a goal line or a red zone defense and see Jack Del Rio's front there. Do you see the same thing when you're turning on the tape with this Dolphins defense in terms of Vic's?
Well, listen, Vic's been in this league a long time, and man, over the years, whether it was San Francisco, Chicago, Denver, all the way back, he was in Houston. I was a young coordinator in New York. And there's certain things that evolve no different than they would evolve with offenses. He's always done a great job of keeping the roof on the coverage, and you've got to sustain drives. It's hard to find big plays, based on the structure of his defense, and it's easy to say they're very sound. Most defenses are, but man, the technique they play with, and they're well coached, and so. We're working on third down tonight, red zone tomorrow night. There'll be certain things that, we'll go back and look at something we ran in Chicago or in San Francisco, last night. And if it appears that that's still in place, what we're seeing, then there's merit to it. And then there's change. Obviously he's at Miami now, and they tinker with things in the off season. So it's, there is a familiarity to what he does. And look, he's got his, spinoff of other coaches now running very similar systems.
Recognizing it's a small sample size, 2 games, but the offensive splits, first, second half have been significant, but also in rushing, the number of attempts and yards. Is anything you see on film in the second half?
Well, let's go back to week 1 again. And when we put up the numbers in our meetings, because we like to put up, we don't put them up league-wide yet, not until about week 4 or 5. But week 1 was 6 possessions, which is unique. And then, we get into where we're throwing the ball late in that game. Generally speaking, if you want to look at a rushing correlation, a lot of times the third down numbers, you get north of 40, 50%. You have more downs and you have more rushing attempts. But yeah, those would be just some early indicators.
You going out early, Coach, for the?
I think Friday night. Yeah.
Do you believe in the time zone thing? That would be, I guess.
I don't know. I've never been west, so I know what we used to do heading west. We'd go, for a handful of teams, we'd go Friday night. It would generally be Pacific time zone teams. Yeah, I think, look, getting out there, getting acclimated. When we put this itinerary together, I'm comfortable leaving Friday night. We'll get our full work here. Saturday we'll probably head to the stadium and get a walkthrough in. I think we have 2 East Coast trips. Buffalo's Monday night, so I don't know that we'll treat that the same way. But, yeah, this is the first time for me heading the other direction.
It looked like you had a couple times during the game where you had screens really set up and just didn't, get the pass completed.
Yeah, there was one, gosh darn it. But we've just got to do a better job of it was a little unique look. But, each week when we do our game plan, we'll look at, there'll be 4 screens probably usually in a plan. Some teams defend them better than others, depending on the scheme and the personnel.
Was that the one where they got the penalty on the face mask? Knocked down?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Sean, what did you think of the unorthodox field goal block play that Belichick unleashed?
Yeah, it was. I always like seeing something like that. I mentioned it to Westhoff, and again, he's, I don't know, year 34. He's seen it before, and I was like, really? We've seen the punt rush like that, right? And the beauty of it is for the person rushing, he if you watch him, he's running right down the line of scrimmage, so his eyes are right on the ball, because it's not like he's listening for a snap count. But it was well executed.
You think it could become part of the?
Oh, I guarantee you're going to see a couple of them this week. And if anything, it's just this moving object. After he got one, then the next one, they blocked it, but he missed it left. Yeah, I think we'll see more of it. Yes.
With New Orleans, you had some teams rebound from 1 or 2 early losses. Do you reference that experience with this team, or do you?
Yeah, look, 17, was one of those years. We opened the season at Minnesota, and it was also when the Super Bowl was going to be played in Minnesota. I remember, collectively as a team, we wanted to start the season in Minnesota and end it there. Now, I didn't know how correct I'd be. We ended up in Minnesota for the divisional round and losing in a tough loss. But yeah, we lost week 1, we lost week 2, a tough loss to New England, and we had 2 road trips. Then we were at Carolina, a good Carolina team, and then to London versus Miami. So listen, you got to get on to the next game. You got to make the corrections. You can't just blindly say, all right. You got to make the corrections, and then, this will be a good test for us. Good team we're playing, obviously.
Sean, is there any value in talking to Justin and Kareem and Josie about what Vic likes to do or tendencies? Or
You're a little late. Yeah, I mean, all these guys, we're surrounded with, in last year's scheme, and, we've had a number of discussions last night where I walked down the hallway. What do you think? I was just talking to Kareem earlier. Right when I walked out to practice, I had a question regarding some red zone stuff. So, yes. Yeah.
How about obviously Bradley Chubb, familiar around here too? What do you make of him as a player?
Yeah, he's explosive. I remember when he came out, he's strong. You see his power, and you feel he's got real good hands. He's stout in the run game. He's a handful. I've never been with him, but I'm familiar with the player.
Overall, what have you liked out of Brandon Johnson that you've seen this year so far?
Well, look, he had that injury in camp, but he knows what to do. He is explosive. He's physical. I like his size. He can block, and quietly, he's one of those guys that does his job very well. And one of the challenges is, as we get into each week game planning, Cortland, Jerry, obviously, Brandon and Marvin, is getting the right personnel, making sure there are no indicators when, we got to be able to run the ball when Jerry's on the field, those type of things. So it's not, but he's done a good job.
Sean, a couple years ago, Vic said he thought Tyreek Hill was maybe the fastest guy, or in the conversation with Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. What do you see from him, and how unique is he?
Yeah, look, I remember Dion and I remember Bo. I mean, he's a completely different type athlete. He's extremely explosive. I would say there's two things that I never hear, but that I see on tape with him. He's got great football IQ, not good. You know, he's savvy. He understands coverages, leverage. And then the second thing is I'd say he's got outstanding stamina. Like he's next play, next play, next play. All of a sudden there's a go, you know. So those are two things that I notice aside from what we all see. I think he's got really good football instincts and you know, he can go for a number of plays.
Some corners have said he's stronger upper body than they think.
There's a play in the New England game. You guys take a peek at it. They put him in a tight split. They hide the split motion and snap the ball, and he blocks the defensive end on a crack. And, I mean, it was textbook, you know, and so the guy he blocked probably was 250 pounds, 248 pounds. You know, it'd be like him blocking one of our outside linebackers. And he is strong. He is strong. One more question.
Coach.
Yeah.
Having someone like Marvin Mims' speed, how did that expand what you do on offense?
Say it one more time.
Like having someone like Marvin Mims with his speed, how much that expands what you can do on offense?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we drafted him, we saw certain traits. We saw returnability. We saw top-end speed. We saw strong hands and, you know, real good football smarts. And so it's then just putting him in positions, you know, where we would put Jerry and you know, it's not just vertical throws. It's you know, a number of different things that he excels at. But he played well last week. That was good. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.